Hi, it's Lisa again, coming here from Photo Scrap, showing you another technique card. I hope you're enjoying the videos because we're having a lot of fun making them. This card today is made with 2 different stamps. I love this new set by Fawn. It's called Flutter By. It has a lot of great flowers and a couple great sentiments and butterflies and things on them. So I use that on all 4 corners. And then the sentiment is a stamp by 2 Paper Divas, and that's embossed in the center. So what we're going to do is show you a couple things today. We're going to again use distressed inks to use watercolor technique, and then a little trick I will save for later, a little something I just learned. We'll be right back. So the first thing we're going to do is stamp our sentiment. In the middle we're going to use Versamark ink that I use almost exclusively for all my embossing. It's just the easiest. It's a real sticky, clear ink pad, and then we'll use silver embossing powder. So let me go ahead and do that. I'll be back in just a moment, and let's show you what that looks like. I'll be right back. We are back. I embossed this with the Versamark and silver embossing powder, and you'll find with detail embossing powder they do kind of melt a little faster, so you really have to keep that heat gun moving. Keep it just a few inches from the surface of your paper, or you can actually over emboss something and it actually just flattens it, so you won't have that nice embossed edge. So you can over emboss and you'll get a scorch mark also. So just move it around real quickly and get that done. And then on the corners here, you'll see on the finished one, I stamped the same stamp, kind of looks like a cabbage rose, I guess, or some kind of cabbage. I did on all 4 corners, and I used the silver embossing powder also. So I got that done, and next thing we're going to do is the fun part. We're going to color in, so I'll be right back. So now's the fun part. Now we're going to use watercolor inks, again, to color in, leaving a real airy kind of imperfect colored in. You'll see I used 2 colors, just red and purple, but of course in some of the areas the 2 colors blended together, and that's how it looks like there's multiple colors, but it's just red and purple. So once again we're going to use our plastic laminated piece, and I'm going to smear on a little bit of shaded lilac and then a little bit of festive berries, and just simply smear it on there. And just like every time you watercolor, you want to make sure you wet the surface just a little bit with some water before you apply your ink. So I'll do maybe 2 corners at a time, just a little bit of water, just so when you apply the ink then you're not going to get a blob. You really want it to be soft. I think I'll start with some purple, and you'll see I'll just kind of use a dabbing motion, and we'll need to do several layers of this. Obviously this is very light, and what's nice about having the embossed edge is it keeps the ink in. So you can see like that blob right there, it allows it to stay in the lines without drifting out. So I'll kind of use a dabbing motion and put on some purple. Next we'll do red, and then we'll kind of do some blending of the 2. So it's very, very simple. You're just simply dabbing the color in and getting a really cool effect. I'll go ahead and dry this, and then we'll move on to the red. I'll be back in just a second. Alright, so I heat set this color because before you watercolor any second layer, you want to make sure the first layer is dry, or you'll get a color that looks like mud. That is not good. So if some of the areas seem a little light to you, now would be the time to kind of go back. I'm pretty happy with how it looks, but if you wanted to, you could just dab some more purple in there. So now we're going to add some red, and of course it's not going to go on bright red, so don't worry. We're going to kind of just apply a little bit of red to some of the areas, and then we'll add more water as we want it to be kind of watered down and a little less bright. And then we'll blend the purple and red layers together. So you'll see how that's going. And again, I'm just using a dabbing motion. I'm using these water brushes by Prima. I love them. They come as a two-pack in the set, so there's kind of a fine and a medium in there. I'm just kind of dabbing, and then we'll add a little bit of water to kind of water that down and combine a little bit. This is very, very simple and very fun. And again, my embossed edge is really keeping everything in, which I really appreciate. All right, now we're going to add a little bit of water and just kind of water some of these down that are in the middle to create the other color. So kind of like an interim color there. See how it's kind of blending together. And then I'll probably put a little bit more intense red in my 4 corners to kind of make that pop. But this is just kind of shading a little bit. And then let's add a little bit of pop in the corners. Make it a little bit brighter. And the great thing about this, you just keep adding layers until you're happy. So if you want it brighter, add another layer. You want to water it down, add a little water to it. So I like the bright red in the corners. And these cards are all out on the table. We call them our Wednesday cards, and what that means is every Wednesday we put out 2 new cards, and they're always on the table. Anybody who works here can answer questions. They're just $2 each. Please come in sometime and do some cards, and we'd be glad to answer questions for you. So I'm going to heat set that, and I'll be back. We're going to work on the leaves. Be right back. All right, so I heat set the corners, and I like the way these three turned out, but this one is kind of wah, kind of boring. I think it needs a little bit more. I'm just going to add a little bit of purpley red. I'm going to kind of dip my brush in both and just add just a little, it leaves a little bit more color, a little pop. So I'm just going to kind of go in there a bit, kind of brighten up that side. I like that better already. All right, so next we're going to work on the leaves. Now, here's the little trick. My friend Tracy, who owns the store here, taught me this little trick. I always thought that distressed inks were the only ones that you could use on a palette here and then draw water and paint with them that way. But she told me you can also do that with memento inks. So I smeared a little bit of the bamboo leaves on my template right here. On my palette, sorry about that. And we are going to stamp in green and then color in. Let me show you the sample again. So we're going to color in the areas of the leaves with a little bit of the green using the water brush. So this is a very cool technique. So I'm going to use the bamboo leaves, and we're going to go on each side, and we're simply going to stamp a leaf. Okay, so those would go on all four sides, but let me show you how that works then. So I'm going to draw a little bit of the ink with my water brush, and I'm just simply going to dab, 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 dab. Voila! And that way the color obviously matches, and you've already got that smeared on there anyhow. Check that out. So that's how we did that on all four corners. I did 2 leaves on each side. Okay, so the last thing I would do then is mount my sentiment in the very center. I'd put a little piece of green behind it. I put pop dots behind the whole thing and then mounted it on the card base. So here's the finished project again. Hope you like it. Come in and see us.
You want to show the purples? Look at this set.
Oh yes, okay, one more thing to show you. I forgot. The stamp set by Fawn, again, it's called Flutter By. I did another card with this set using the butterflies, and I just love this. So you can see I stamped one butterfly on the circle and just color that in with some basic purples, and then stamped a second one and cut it out and used just probably 10 or 12 different purples to color that in. Some I'm drawing a blank.
Frills.
Thank you. Some prills for the center, little sentiment. This is a background die by Tailored Expressions. I love how this one turned out, and a little bit of clear wink of Stella on the leaves, if you can on her wings, if you can kind of see that. So one of my favorite new stamp sets, and we have it here. Talk to you soon. Thank you.